Administration with a concentration in marketing. This is my second semester as a career ambassador, and I'm currently going through the interview process now, looking for a summer marketing internship. So the interview process is kind of fresh on my mind. I'm currently going through it. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of give you an inside scoop of what it looks like and how to kind of alleviate some of those fears.
I'm Brian. This is my first semester as a career ambassador. I'm a senior double majoring in chemical and biomedical engineering. And I recently interviewed just last semester with a company out of RTP called Patheon. So that was a fun experience.
Hi, I'm Robert Bullard. I'm a junior studying physics and applied mathematics. It's my first semester as a career ambassador, and my interview experience is pretty much for this position. I had to interview in August with our lovely Benedictus in the back there, and that's most of my interview experience.
And we're experiencing some technical difficulties.
All right, well, while he works on that, how many of you have been through an interview or are going through an interview process? Wow, so most of you. Kind of get a gauge who in here is a sophomore or junior, sophomore. Okay, nice. How many of you are freshmen? Wow, good job pulling out. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to start out with an activity. It's called Fear in the Hat. Since it's Halloween time, we decided to kind of do something Harry Potter Halloween-y related, but it's really not that related. Anyways, we're going to ask you, you should have all gotten a piece of paper when you walked in. Does anyone not have one? Awesome. So we're asking that you're going to take out a piece, or a pen or paper, and write down, just write down something that you're nervous about, a fear you have, or something related to a question you could have related to the interview process. And then you'll just pass it onto the inside of the aisles. Once you've written it. As you finish writing down your fears or questions, you'll just pass those to the middle aisle. Once they go to the middle aisle, we'll pass them forward, so you can pass it to the row in front of you. And then Brian's going to collect those. So we're hoping to address the fears that you may have, the questions that you may have related to the interviews throughout this presentation. But if we don't, at the end, we're going to have Ben kind of sift through them and find some that we may not touch on. And we're going to address those at the end and also have an opportunity to ask questions if, again, we haven't addressed something that's top on your mind. So, was everyone able to get one in?
If you see any questions in there, you don't answer.
Perfect.
So our objectives for today, for those of you who just want to know more about the interview process or haven't had an interview yet, we're going to cover 4 things. The first is the best practices for communicating effectively in a professional environment. And then we're going to tell you what to do before, during, and after your interview.
Okay, so employers want to identify candidates who are, first of all, qualified for the job. So they want to make sure you have the expertise, maybe some experience, technical skills, to make sure that you know what you're, basically a baseline knowledge. That'll come from your resume, maybe internships you've held in the past that have to do with the position you're applying for. Then they're going to look at, will you do the job? This comes down to work ethic, determination. A lot of this will come from questions like, say you were interacting with a customer at a previous job. How did you handle a problem that arose or a disappointed customer? How did you fix a problem when you were working in a team? It shows your skills with people, and it goes beyond just your technical qualifications that might be under it. Also, you might need to submit a recommendation letter. That will also fall into this category. It speaks to you as a person. Thirdly, you're going to look for the fit within the group or organization. This is a two-way street. So you need to be comfortable with the environment that the company has, but the company also has to look at you and say, do we want this type of person in our space? And you need to think about, like, Facebook, their environment might be different than, say, GlaxoSmithKline. Could be completely different. So do some research on that and know what you feel comfortable with.
So there's two main types of interviews that will happen. The first is a screening interview. This is, like Robert was saying, this is going to be like your qualifications, making sure that you are able to do the job. A lot of times this is over the phone. It could be in person too, or a Skype interview, something like that. But again, it's just kind of screening out those people that aren't even qualified for the position that still apply. You're just kind of weeding those out to get a more narrow pool that they'll actually continue the interview process with. So this is, again, those technical questions, just kind of figuring out if you're even qualified, if you're meeting those baselines, like Robert was saying. And then you'll have your selection process. This will be your second round or third round interview. These are more oftentimes the in-person interviews that you think of naturally when you think of an interview. And these are going to be a lot of those personality type questions, questions to see how you react in different situations, under stress, working with others, those leadership skills that you may have. They're kind of trying to pull those out to see what type of person you really are. So they already know at this point that you will be able to do the job, but they want to make sure that you're motivated, that you're interested in the position in the company, that you fit in, all those things that they can better gauge in an in-person interview, again, with that smaller pool. And if you have any questions throughout the whole presentation, feel free to raise your hand.
So typically your screening interview will be a phone or Skype interview. I know for my interview at Patheon, that was my first interview. They called me on the phone. So what you want to do for these is find a quiet space. If it's a Skype interview, it's especially important to have good Wi-Fi as well. And you want to be prepared with your resume, the job description, and any questions you have about the company. You also want to make sure you're dressed appropriately. I know even for a phone interview, your immediately impulse is going to be, you can wear sweatpants, just be comfortable. But I guarantee you will do better if you dress appropriately and professionally. And it's especially important for Skype interview too. Make sure you wear pants, because I know one of my friends, they asked him to stand up. And wearing boxers did not go so well. So make sure you suit up.
Another type of interview is a group interview. This could be broken down into multiple people interviewing and multiple people asking a question and multiple people gunning for the job. So it's a competitive environment. If you are sitting around the table with, say, 3 to 10 to any number of people, you're going to have to stand out, but not in a bad light. So even though it's competitive, you're not going to want to be combative, putting down other candidates, because you might actually work with these people. So they're also looking at how you stand out among a team. So you have to be cohesive. So it's a good idea to compliment, maybe go off of other ideas in a positive way, but try not to put people down. But at the same time, you're going to stand out. If it's a panel interview, you're going to have maybe 3 or 4 people. If somebody asks you a question, say from the right side, look at them, say, I understand the question, maybe repeat the question back if it gives you a little bit of time to think, but also bring everybody else back into that conversation as well. Because you don't want to be just talking to one person. You want to be talking to everybody, and not everybody.
So let's talk about how to dress. Again, wear pants, especially if it's an on-site interview. Business professional is the way to go. If you are uncertain, don't hesitate to ask the employer by email, whoever your contact is. Most of the time it will be business professional, and it's always better to overdress. So what does this mean? For guys, wear conservative suits, nice slacks with the tie and a jacket, closed-toed shoes as well polished. For girls, wear something like a pantsuit or a skirt or a dress with a jacket over. Make sure your heels are medium to low, closed-toed as well. and limit the amount of jewelry you have. And then this applies to both guys and girls. Make sure you're not wearing a plunging neckline. You want to limit the amount of people.
Yeah, modesty is always best.
And this is a good practice. It's very cheesy, but we highly recommend it here at the Career Development Center. So what we want you to do right now is a little activity. We want you to stand up. Stand up. I know, it's a Monday. You tend to get nervous in social situations like I do frequently. A good thing to do before your interview is to psych yourself up. So what I want you to do, lift your hands high in the air.
Strike your best pose.
Alright? And I want you to say some words of encouragement to yourself, like, I'm a star. The best. My hair looks great.
I'm really funny.
Before your interview, you want to make sure you're as comfortable as possible, because the best interviews will usually be a conversation. As long as you're well prepared, there's no need to be nervous. They just want to get to know you better, so you need to put your best foot forward. Bottom line is, be comfortable with your
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about some preparations before the interview. Research your organization. If you think that you want to work for Volvo, this happened to a fellow career ambassador. He was at a career fair. He went up, he's like, oh, I really want to work on cars. Turns out the majority of what they do is trucks, like large shipping. So if you don't know your organization, I mean, that's a career fair setting, but in an interview, it's going to be even more crucial to know what you're doing. The next thing is look at the job description, look at the company's goals, their mission statements, and reflect that in your resume and your responses when you get asked questions in these interviews. That shows you actually care about the company, you've looked, and they matter to you. You can also think of examples that reflect requirements or values. For example, SpaceX, one of their mission statements is we want to revolutionize the field of space travel and live on other planets. So maybe if you've, I don't know, been a counselor at like an astronomy camp, I know that's an option for the physics department. Talk about how you try to inspire kids. You know, find connections with the ideology of the company. Also, identify your strengths and weaknesses. That's probably going to be one of their questions. Like, what is one of your biggest weaknesses, one of your biggest strengths? Have that ready, so you don't be surprised. You're not surprised.
So then with that comes researching yourself. Like Robert was saying, finding those strengths and weaknesses. It's sometimes hard to put into words our personality or what our strengths or room for improvements are. So a good way to do that is, how many of you have heard of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI? Yeah, so if you're in, I know, exploratory studies, you definitely do a lot with that. That's what I was in my freshman year. But anyways, you can just Google like strengths tests or personality tests, things that will help you figure out what those personality traits are so that you can better put those into words. And once you kind of have an understanding of who you are and what your personality is, you can now tailor those into the job description and then onto your resume. And once you kind of have it all laid out on your resume, you can make a list of what those strengths and weaknesses are, or what experiences highlight different strengths and skills that you have, so that when the employer asks you, how do you act in a group setting, or how do you react to a failure, how do you overcome a failure, what is your next step, something like that, where they're asking that personality to kind of see how you react, how you act with others, how you communicate, those leadership skills, all those kind of skills that they're trying to dig out of there. You'll have those responses ready, and you'll have concrete examples to give them that show and highlight specific things that you've done, rather than just saying that you have those skills. You can now show them, which is super important to try and paint a picture and show rather than just tell.
Let's talk about what to expect during the interview. The first question that you should always expect is, tell me about yourself. And this is a really good question. It's kind of like that elevator speech that you had during the career fair. It's a 1 or 2 minutes, just commercial of what your personal highlights are. You want to make sure you don't use general terms, don't give a life story, because again, you only have 1 or 2 minutes and you don't want them to zone out. You want to talk about where you are currently, like what your major is, what degree of study you are. You want to talk about where you see yourself in the future, and kind of go through your resume, because I guarantee you they've already looked it over and are prepared to ask you questions about it. And most importantly, mention why you were interested in that particular job and that particular company.
And tell me about yourself. It can seem awkward just talking about yourself at the beginning. You're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what is my best quality. So that, again, in the researching yourself is super important. Taking the time to develop that elevator speech and practicing it. And again, by elevator speech, we just mean a 1 to 2 minute topic where you're just talking about yourself. You're just saying what are the highlights, why you want to work there. So it can be awkward, but the more you practice it and the more time you take to figure out what's important about you and what you really want to highlight, the easier it is and the less awkward it can seem.
So take a minute, turn to the person next to you, and tell them about yourself. Go.
Well, my name is Bernie. I'm a senior today. I'm looking for jobs. Assets, those kind of companies. So, some of my strengths, I've had 3 internships with the aviation to help me become more open to what it's like to work in a big company. Where I see myself, I'd like to be something like a design engineer. Something along those lines.
Alright, everybody. Now that you've gotten to know each other better, now we have your attention.
Alright, everyone, did you learn something about your neighbor that you maybe didn't know? Learn something about yourself? Awesome.
Alright, so there are 4 types of questions that you're going to see. Traditional questions kind of go over things that might be on your resume. Say in an internship at Boeing, you're going to want to know a little bit about that, what you did. Maybe if you helped design some nose cones for something. Really, it's just base level stuff. The next type would be behavioral. So that comes back to maybe how you interact with customers, how you interact with in a team, problems you faced and how you solve them. Another example would be tell me a time you failed and how you fixed it and what you learned from it. Just gives them a little bit of insight into how you deal with conflict. Then there are technical questions. So let's see, a good example. How many ping pong balls fit into a 7-foot center? The answer is 22,870,000, roughly, give or take. But the point is, that was an actual interview question that I have a friend that got, which is crazy, but that's more of calculation, rough approximation, and stuff like that. That can also be engineering questions. Do you have an example?
Chemical engineering, they'll ask, typically at chemical engineering firms, they'll ask the very technical engineering processes questions, so material balances, basic entry-level or courses that you take, but yeah, different things like that.
Circuitry, it's all over the place. Another type of question is off the wall. That last example I gave is kind of an off-the-wall technical combination, but for example, when I interviewed to be a CA, I got the question, how would you describe the color yellow to a blind person? So it's just kind of weird questions that give you an opportunity to express your creative side. So maybe like, close your eyes and think about what it would be like to be a blind person, and how would you comprehend the color yellow? So it's interesting.
So the best way to kind of approach answering these questions is to break it down into what we call the STAR method. So that stands for situation, task, action, and result. And so you're going to kind of walk them through kind of a storyline of what happened and how you got to the result that you got to and how that's applicable to the question that they're asking. So if you're going to try and use your resume to talk off of, which is a good idea, you can kind of pull those different experiences that you have on your resume and then now bring them to life. So we're going to just walk it out, talk it out. So if I was interviewing Brian, I could say, so can you describe a time where you were a leader and had to organize a response to to achieve results. So what's the situation? What happened?
It was the summer before my senior year of high school, and I was the little hotshot lifeguard at our local pool. Well tanned, 6'5", dashingly, boyishly handsome, and the kid was drowning.
Oh no, so what happened? What's the task? What's the goal like?
I had to save the kid.
Right, of course. So what actions did you take?
While being the natural born leader I am, I signaled my fellow lifeguards, and then I immediately dove in with a very selfless act. I brought the kid back to the pool side and into his home.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's the result?
I was a hero. The kid was safe, the pool was kept open, and everyone was happy.
You're hired. Okay, so now we're going to kind of play around with the off-the-wall questions. So again, what's the point of these? They're quirky, they're really off-the-wall, they're really random, and they can seem pointless, but there really is usually a point to them. A lot of times it's to see your personality and creativity, and to see that fun side kind of coming out. But it also can kind of help them see how you think under pressure, what you're doing and thinking, what you look like when you act like in a stressful environment. And you can kind of see those coming out of the responses that you may have to the off-the-wall questions. So what we're going to ask is that you pair up with someone, and we're going to put the question up there, and then you guys can take turns answering the question, and then you'll stand up, switch, find a new partner, and then we'll do the next one. We have 3 questions. This is the first one. If you were a type of Halloween candy, which would you be and why? So you can just pair up and take a few minutes to answer the question.
Someone's got to know what they're actually trying to I think I gotta go. Okay, let's see.
Alright. If I were a type of Halloween candy, I would be rock candy. Every rock candy is unique, and I'm unique, and rock candy grows when put in the right environment, and I constantly grow and absorb information.
Let's see. I'm gonna go with 2 because they're composed of a lot of different. You got chocolate, you got nougat, you got nuts in there too, I think. So it's kind of like me. I feel like I've got a pretty diverse spectrum in terms of opinions.
I think y'all have gotten some good responses. Does anyone want to volunteer an answer that they got from their partner? Anyone? What type of Halloween candy would you be?
There might be a incentive.
Such as candy.
That's all I had.
My partner said he'd be a Reese's Cup because he's pretty on the outside, but he's even better on the inside.
So we have to take 5, and then we have to take 5, and then the like variety Hershey's candy.
That has peanuts in it.
Oh yeah, are you allergic to
No, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next one.
Oh, you're gonna have to wait.
What song is playing when you are alone in your car and why?
So now mix with a new partner, meet someone new, introduce yourself.
Mingle.
What's your name?
When I'm alone in my car, it's probably definitely something that I would want to be listening to, like with a group of friends. So probably something more mellow, I think, more sentimental. I don't know. Something I would be able to listen to. I don't know, my little brother in the car. Yeah, that's really do you know the song Fast Car? Yeah, I'd probably listen to something like that and sing along with it.
Anyone want to volunteer anything? Again, the incentive is candy. Anyone want to raise their hands?
So my partner really enjoys listening to classical music because it enables them to focus all of their efforts towards driving. So that walking all beyond.
Sounds boring.
Love it.
Yeah. You in the back.
My partner.
Oh.
You can both do
Yeah,
it,
you
so
can both.
just
I like
choose
to listen to
real
Here I Go Again by Whitesnake because it reminds me of the destination. And also Summer Camp.
quick. Wow, that's so good.
Songs in the Rain.
What about you?
My partner said that she listens to We Are the Champions because it really pumps her up.
What was it?
We are the champions.
Confidence.
Can't go
Always
wrong
a
with
good
that.
choice.
Alright, do you like me?
Sure.
We have one more, so you can mix and match again. Someone new. If you were to trade places with anyone for a week, who would it be and why? So you can find a new partner. And answer this.
Just last one.
Yeah, you've been.
Yeah. That's a good response. Candy. Okay. You could play
What is your
awesome.
I get to experience what it is like to be in a system. I get to be and experience some things like because people like us because like he's doing some really cool stuff. And if I was people on bus for a day, then I feel bad because I can't experience something else. Yeah. So he's the CEO of SpaceX, who's trying to start a colony on Mars and test the automotive industry it's a pretty yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, you could just like do that on the app.
One of the drivers.
I think he's also one of the most hated benefits. That'd be awesome.
What are some responses that your partner told you? Remember, this is the last one, last chance for candy. So, red shirts.
My partner said he would trade with his grandma because she just gets to watch HGTV all day. She has like her retirement money saved up and gets to travel.
That is very fun.
That
That's
is
a
the
good
dream. You in the back.
My partner said he would like to trade places with a yak farmer in Nepal.
Interesting.
Because it's the exact opposite of what he is now, and he thinks that it would help him grow as a person.